Teri, welcome to the Jacob Koutas show.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah,
Excited.
Honored to have you, a publisher of your book. So
Yeah.
First of all, I love the name. It's a little bit out there for those. Here, we'll get it on the camera there so everyone can see. So it's called Bleep the Resume.
Yes.
Don't Work for the Man, Be the Man or Woman by Teri O'Donnell.
Mm-hmm.
So what inspired you? So like, what's this book about? And like, what kind of inspired you to do this?
So during COVID, I was having a long conversation with a guy on LinkedIn. And actually, he had sent out 500 resumes and was celebrating the fact that he got 2 responses.
Wow.
And that drove me crazy because the guy I was speaking with was a military veteran, some guy that had been in the military for 20 years. And I got really frustrated that I feel people, civilians, don't understand what veterans bring to the table in regards to employment.
Mm-hmm.
So very passionate about the topic. I've been an entrepreneur almost 18, 19 years now. And and a former veteran or a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And hence the camouflage and the foul language.
I like it.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this is basically just saying, like, the resume is bad and you should go towards the people that are behind the resume, or what's kind of like the purpose behind the book?
It's kind of like stop trying to sell yourself to others.
Mm-hmm.
Hire yourself.
I like that.
Yeah, it drove me crazy because I learned that so many veterans with, decades of experience are being brought into organizations at entry level. So essentially they were being disrespected for the 20 years that they've already put into whatever career.
Because their corporate experience is low. So like their corporate experience is low, but they've had so much years of experience in the service that they don't account for those, or they can't correlate those to the job kind of deal.
Yeah. And I think honestly, part of that challenge is the hiring managers, but also the algorithms, reading resumes might not necessarily align with people that have not needed to write a resume in 20 years.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so let's go into then like the benefits, the real benefits behind actually hiring veterans. Like what behind it? Because you see people getting entry level positions, and obviously if you've been in service for 20 years, you've been working with the military for 20 years. So you obviously have skills. You're not just sitting there being lazy, because we all know the military is not lazy.
Yeah.
So like, what about veterans or people of service, like what kind of skills can they bring that you'll know about that you can be like, I want to hire this person because they served?
Well, you're not in the military unless you, especially for 20 years, unless you have leadership skills. After 20 years, you must know how to lead a team. So I think we can begin there, but it also requires responsibility, ingenuity, character, being able to know how to inspire a team and motivate people.
Yeah.
So, and train. So there's just
Obviously.
like so many levels of experience.
The biggest one for me is probably discipline.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I feel like that is like literally the pinnacle of military experience, is like, if you're not disciplined, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So like, and who wouldn't want that in an employee, or as an employer, you would want someone that has discipline. You would want someone to be like, if I told you and asked you to do something and you said, yeah, I'll get right on it. Like, you don't want to sit there and question whether or not they're working on it.
Yes.
You just want to know that they're doing it. And I feel like that is another thing that veterans 100% bring in.
Yeah. Integrity, ethics. There's just so much. I mean, I feel most veterans can check probably about 15 boxes that employers are looking for. Commitment, dedication. I mean, we can go on.
We can go on and on.
It's crazy.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I obviously work with a lot of veterans as well, people who've transitioned out of service. One of the things that my company offers is like a return to work program. So like, the difference between civilian life and like in service life, I feel like is a lot more different than people think.
Yeah.
So can you kind of explain how you went from being in service to transitioning back to like civilian life? Because it could be tough, it could be easy depending on your journey.
So I'm probably not the traditional veteran that had to make a big transition. I was active duty Marine Corps for 4 years, and then I did 2 years in the reserves. I was younger. I wasn't married. I didn't have a family. I didn't own a home. So the transition for many that are career military, it's so different for them than what I went through. But as I got into working with veterans more through my consulting business, I started to feel the challenges and understand the challenges that they went through. Essentially, for most military veterans, they're told where to live. They're, told where to go for their medical needs.
Right.
They kind of grocery shop on base. They're even told what to wear every day.
Yeah.
So
that structure could be really nice for people,
Yeah. And then suddenly they don't have that anymore. They're actually dressing themselves and, buying a house for themselves, putting their kids in school. So it's just so different for so many. So the transition can be hard, and especially if people are in careers that are non-traditional in the civilian world. So trying to find something that aligns with what they do can also be a challenge.
So bringing those skills back, I mean, I feel like that's a different perspective that I've never heard before. Is like, people usually hear the story of, like Chris Kyle, and he came back and he's got like PTSD, and he's like, he like doesn't know what he's doing, and like he sits down. The most iconic scene from I think it was American Sniper was when he sat down and like you like look at him and you hear gunshots and you hear like fighting and you hear everything, and like he's watching the TV, he's like looking directly at the TV, and then it pans around the room and then it goes to the TV and it's completely off. Like that's the typical thing that people usually see when they're like, oh, like this is how you transition back to civilian life. But I do feel like the most common one would probably be you don't get told what you need to do anymore every single day. So it's like, how do you go about your day? Like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, you don't know, like, how do I apply to jobs? Where do I go to find jobs?
Yeah.
What do I do essentially?
Yeah. And I think the military tries really hard to offer opportunities and, programs, boots to business or, skill transitions, but it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And you know what? Not only for the veterans, but for their spouses. I talked to an amazing master sergeant today. He's retiring from the Army in 3 months. And listening to their story was so interesting to me. The master sergeant's wife has not really had a career because they
like
moved.
A stay-at-home mom?
She was.
Okay.
She was, but they move so often. So it's really hard for military spouses to actually start careers, unless it might be a career that's virtual.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you certainly can't start a business.
Yeah,
because
like
you're
a
moving
real
every
estate
3 years,
anywhere,
every brick and mortar. Yeah. So whatever happens to the veteran, it happens to his whole family. And kids are moved every 3 or 4 years, different schools, different friends. So, yeah.
That can be tough on family.
Yeah.
Do you ever think that so that when you go to a different place, you get deployed different places, so that would be like within the United States basically?
No.
So they could be like out of the U.S., like in other countries as well?
Yeah. I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. I requested orders there. But again, I did because I could. And the gentleman I spoke with today, he said they were based in Hawaii. Everyone thinks, beautiful, gorgeous paradise. But they lived there for 9 years. The husband was essentially deployed for 4 of those 9. So his wife was essentially a single mom for practically 4 years.
Yeah, for 4 years. Because she was, I mean, being in Hawaii might not be that bad if you're the wife living in Hawaii. But if your husband's deployed in Hawaii and you're in Illinois freezing your butt off, you might be like, all right, well, What am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
I can't take the kids out of school on the first week of December when it's cold and go visit. I got to wait till break or I got to wait till you come back home or visit. So that's definitely interesting. Yeah. So you would probably, I'd say then that like it's an advantage for the younger single crowd for in the military, I'm guessing. Because the disadvantage, it sounds like, is if you do have a foundation, it's hard to move places because you have so much with you.
Yeah, yeah. So it is probably easier for someone who's only been in 4 years or 6 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that young, most people don't get married that young, or even if they do, they haven't planted roots wherever it is they are. But one of the other challenges is they move and they don't have a support system.
Yeah.
You know,
like
grandparents
or cousins or anything,
to
even
help
friends.
Babysit. Yeah. Where do you go for those 4th of July barbecues?
Yeah.
You know?
You throw it at your own place or just walk around and say hi to people. Yeah. But then you're just like, hey, I'm here for, 2 years, then I'm basically gone again. So
yeah,
it's tough to grab like roots and like build that community.
Yeah.
Did you find that tough when you were deployed?
No. It was easier, I think, for me again, because I was single and, it
sort of a means to an end kind of deal. You knew that you were going to come back, or you knew that you were going to be leaving anyways, and you're kind of just enjoying your time out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was always immersed in whatever I did, wherever I was. When I requested orders to Okinawa, I had a lot of fun there. I lived in a little apartment, even though I could have lived on base. I lived in a little apartment and out in town. I wanted to be immersed in the culture and the environment. I became a PADI certified scuba diver when I was over there. Certainly not an opportunity you get kind of in the Midwest.
Yeah, definitely not.
So I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I was only over there for a year, but it was worth every minute. And interestingly enough, I have some really good friends that I met over there. And here it is decades later.
Still talking to them?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they were in Chicago like 3-4 years ago, and we had lunch, and we connect a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I still have, because when I went to school in Hawaii, I still have friends that I talk to all the time from there. See all their, well, now it's like social media, so you see a bunch of social media posts. You can message them and text them whenever you want, So that's been super fun for me, because it's like you meet all these crazy, awesome people, and now you can connect in an instant with your phone, which is great. So yeah, that's fun. So next topic I want to talk about is, so it's still military stuff too, but your franchising group is also tailored towards military veterans.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about your franchise group. So what is franchising, first of all? Because I'm curious, because I have an idea, but I'm like curious to hear what your definition is.
Yeah, well, it's essentially where someone chooses to invest in a brand and you buy their playbook and then you execute that playbook. I mean,
so is the Chick-fil-A one the franchising? Is that
actually Chick-fil-A?
Is that not?
Not really.
Because I've heard like, all you need to do is get in the list.
$10,000.
You get in the list of Chick-fil-A and you're set for life or something like that.
Not a thing. I mean, you actually have to work at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
you have to work in the business, and I think
need to be a manager. I forget what it is.
Yeah, I think so. You have to manage it. And I think if you choose to leave, you don't get to take any of that equity with.
Interesting. So you're in for life.
Yeah, I think that might be a thing.
Okay, so how is that then different from like what franchising is? So like what's like the playbook you play by? Like what's an example you can give me?
So there's so many franchise opportunities beyond just Burger King and McDonald's, right? And Chick-fil-A. But essentially, my prior experience as a banker, I used to help people buy houses. So I feel the process is very similar to buying a house. And so part of the process in franchising is you select an industry that you want to work in. There are franchise brands, there's plumbing brands, there's painting brands. Of course, there's quick serve restaurants, there's fitness brands.
So it's essentially any brand that out there that has any process. You can just copy and paste it.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, again, you're investing in the playbook and you're investing in the franchisor,
Okay.
which is the one that comes up with the idea, creates the branding. They put together the playbook, and then, you write them a check,
Mm-hmm.
and then you build your own business based on the guidelines they've set forth.
Okay. So who was like the first franchisee? Was that McDonald's that did that, or was it a different company?
Yeah, I think Ray Kroc.
Ray Kroc? Because
Yeah.
that's kind of where I get, like, when you think of franchising, like, you obviously think of like all the chain restaurants and
Right.
stuff. So because I'm guessing that's kind of where it started. That's my assumption.
Yeah.
So with the run the playbook, I'm just giving McDonald's as an example because I know that they have some areas in some different countries that have slightly different menu items. Like slightly different. Very different. But like very much the same place. If you went in there, you could order something and it'd be that exactly the same in USA, Canada, England, whatever. So like what's the discrepancies that you can do? Can that vary a lot between franchises, or is that usually you want to keep it tight?
Yeah, so usually you want to keep it tight. I am going to say, and interestingly enough, we were talking about my time in the Marine Corps. When I was in Okinawa, I did go to Korea for a short visit, and it was cool. When I went to Korea, I think they had a McDonald's and maybe a Wendy's there. And I just came across those photos recently, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about this. Yeah, but
was the menu the same in Korea?
Probably was. Yeah. There might have been some small differences, but usually what you get to do if you're a master franchisor, there might be menu items in a restaurant case specific to a culture. Because I've also worked with franchisors in India and Australia, and they have just different dietary
I mean,
choices.
A lot of them have like a fish is a big one. I mean, Japan, fish is a big one. So if you didn't have like 3 main items from McDonald's that were different, that were all fish based, you'd almost be like, they're not going to come buy food anyways. You know?
So the franchisor wants you to follow their system basically, and then you would have to get certain additional items approved. If you wanted to serve, like, there's different spice levels even at some of the fish and chicken brands I've worked with.
Okay. Yeah. So if you went somewhere bland, you'd have to make sure that it's less spicy. Yeah. If you went somewhere that's like more fun, you'd have to definitely get a lot more spice in there.
Spice it up. Yeah.
That'd be fun. Like, you go somewhere, it's like their food is all spicy and all flavorful, and then you just go and walk in and it's a franchise with like the most bland food. Probably wouldn't be successful.
I think if you're in Ireland, and I can say this because my last name is O'Donnell, blander taste buds.
Yep, for sure.
And by the way, that's my married name, so there's that.
Blander taste.
Yeah, my husband does not like anything spicy.
Yeah.
So
I'm a fan of spicy food, but I mean, I'm Greek, so I don't know. Does that really, I don't know if that necessarily works. I'm not, I mean, we don't like bland food. We were not like hot, spicy, like Hispanic food or anything.
Yeah.
Mediterranean, it's more like fish, So I guess I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not like the most bland guy, but I don't need it to be flaming hot either.
Oh, I'm like, give me the Tabasco. Give me more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, like, you now connecting this to like veterans. So do you do specific targeting audience for veterans for this, or do you do anyone for franchising?
Well, honestly, if there's smart investors out there, I'll certainly work with them. Absolutely. I feel a little bit like a mama bear in the franchise space. I want to be sure our veterans are taken care of. So I've worked with veterans. One group opened a housekeeping cleaning brand. Another group invested in a brewery, which is kind of cool. So there's just a lot of different options and opportunities. I also love working with veteran franchisors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they're the people that start the playbook. Okay.
Idea people.
What do you think is easier, starting the playbook or running the playbook?
Well, I think running the playbook. Give me the playbook and let me execute. What happens in franchising is the franchisor, the idea people, they're the ones who have had to develop the systems and create the processes and make the mistakes.
Yeah.
So when the franchisee comes in, they're thanking the franchisor for giving them ideally somewhat of a polished system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah.
What if it's what if portions of it are unpolished? Is the franchisee allowed to message the franchisor and like mention something that could improve it? Say they had something that was like, this could like boost our sales by 5%. Like, we should try to do it. Like, do the franchisors, is there like flexibility there?
They're all different. Some franchisors say, nope, it's my deal and you got to follow everything 100%, which is typically what you want for brand consistency.
Right.
Now, in my opinion, smart franchisors will maybe have a small advisory group and say, we want some ideas, bring them to us. You can't just implement them.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. So when I first got into franchising, I owned a massage therapy franchise. And I felt they were lacking in marketing. They were, for sure. However, I saw some of my neighboring franchise owners or even franchise owners in other states put out their own marketing. So in our massage therapy brand, we did not have people in robes. We did not have candles burning in the background. We didn't have roses in the rooms. But people made up their own marketing using clip art, I think, back then.
Probably. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so against our brand standards. This is not marketing collateral that's approved. So, you know, because then what would happen is customers would come in and they'd expect candles burning in the background.
Yeah. And robes and all the fancy stuff. And you're just like, we're just here to give you a massage. It's not that big of a deal.
Exactly. So, yeah, you do have some renegades that think that they can do better, but there is usually a process if you want to bring something new to the table.
Okay. Is there any penalties for obscuring from the process or deviating from the process?
Yeah.
What can those penalties be? Like, do they fine them, or is it just like you can't do it anymore? Or
usually it's a slap on the hand and a conversation first. Like, why did you do it? You know, let's try to come up with a solution. Love your idea. Let's see if we can implement it. And some smart franchise brands will do a test market.
Okay.
Like, hey, that's a great menu item. Let's try it. Or, hey, that's a great service offering. We should add that, but let's try it first before we roll it out to the network. So
interesting.
I'm a huge fan. I think it's important that franchisors listen to franchisees and vice versa. But it needs to be a collaborative environment. You just can't do it.
You can't do it by yourself and then bring it up to them later. Yeah. It's more like bring it up to them first, talk about it, and then figure out logistics from there.
Yeah, you can't be a lone wolf. That's not why you invest in a franchise.
Yeah.
It's a 10-year agreement typically.
Okay. So is it kind of like a loan then?
No, you're agreeing to build this business over a certain term.
Okay.
And usually it's 10 years. Your larger investments, if it's a brick and mortar in a restaurant, usually those are 10-year agreements because it costs a lot of money to build really beautiful space, right?
Yeah, and you have to buy the real estate for it, or if there is real estate for it, build the buildings and the infrastructure. And like, I mean, would you look at the ROI basically then of like how long it takes to actually get the money back in? Yeah. And then you'd calculate it based off that?
Yeah, so, that's all part of the
So could you do like
program.
a 5-year one if the ROI is like a year? Or would you still want to do a 10-year or 15-year?
Well, if you're going to make your money back in a year, you probably want a longer agreement.
That way you make more profit off of it in the long run.
Exactly. So what we find is sometimes people will start out with one location and they'll be awarded one license. And then they'll go ahead and they say, oh, we love this. We want a second license and a third. So you can do multiple of the same franchisee. Yeah. You can become multiple location owners. Yeah. Multi-unit franchise owners.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
So some people just dip their toe in it because they're not sure they're going to like it. And then once they realize they are going to like it, because again, it's like wash, rinse, and repeat. Yeah. You know, you just keep going.
Cranking the wheel. Yeah. Like it's already there. You're just doing the work to get it rolling. Yeah. You're building the buildings and getting the license and getting the customers in, the marketing in. Yeah. So you're kind of just turning that wheel, which is good. I mean, that's kind of what you want to do. And then hopefully if it's profitable, you can keep doing it and make money out of it.
Yeah, I kind of actually think starting a franchise or building it is kind of like raising kids. The first one is always the hardest.
So is that true?
It is.
Is that true?
Yeah.
First one. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
what about the middle one? How's the middle one? Is the middle one okay?
Ooh, I don't know.
Tough. What about the youngest one?
Who's the most spoiled? I feel sorry for the oldest because parents don't know anything.
Right. I mean,
That's the one where like, wait, if you're going to hold my baby, you need to use this hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
And then the second one, you're a little bit more flexible. And then the third one, it's like, oh, they dropped the binky on the floor. Just wipe it on your jeans and stick it in their mouth.
Stick it back in.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So, I mean, kind of talking about your family now, which is fun. Because for those who don't know, James is one of my best friends, the middle child.
The middle child.
Brendan's also was great. I love your family. So you are an entrepreneur and you have built a great family. So how has that been when you go through your life, starting your entrepreneurial journey first? Did you start before you had kids?
No.
So you started your entrepreneur journey after you had kids?
Yes.
So how scary was that, first of all? Because I know that can be very scary. And then how did growing with your kids and your entrepreneur journey as a business owner, how did that story go? How did you work through that?
So I always had flexibility in my day job before I had kids, but I got into entrepreneurship because I had kids.
Interesting.
They were my inspiration because I did not have children for someone else to raise them. And my husband, had his career and he didn't have a lot of flexibility in his career. So I can't remember how old my kids were at the time, maybe 10, 6, and 4, somewhere along those lines. But the cool thing is that we started our business. It was a brick and mortar. We hired a manager. So essentially, we managed the manager from afar.
Okay.
Came in once or twice a week. And again, it was a massage therapy business. Poor me. I had to go in and, get massages to be sure that the business was running properly. And, that's how I had to
sounds terrible.
Interview a massage therapist.
I might have to go into the massage business and test the clientele out and make sure that it's running well.
It's just you choose your lifestyle.
Right.
So I was very fortunate, and I had back problems, for years. I had back surgeries, and so massage therapy was really, really good for me. Anyway, so I got to be the room mom. I got to go on field trips with my kids. I got to be the soccer coach and the softball coach. So I realized that my time with my kids was limited. So I took advantage of it as much as I could.
Yeah. So were you able to basically build up enough capital to put forward, or how did you kind of start it when you got to that first point where you're like, I'm going to do this, but how do I do this? Because I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, I feel like, start by themselves. They don't really have much going for them, and they're kind of just like, I want to figure this out and give myself time back. Because when you do that, you're basically buying your time back, which is it's only limited. You only got so much,
Yeah.
You can only go on so many field trips. If you miss them, you miss them. Like, that's it. Your kids are only kids once is usually the quote people go to. So how did you kind of start out and get that journey on the way? What was the kickoff?
So, gosh, as part of the funding process for a franchise, you need to write a business plan. So I did that. I put together a business plan, put together some financial projections, and we tapped into our home equity. Most franchisors frown on that today. They don't want you to borrow money because, they don't want you to borrow your capital injection. So today I generally recommend people have between $25,000 and $50,000 in liquidity. That's really kind of the entry point. But if you're going to, build something really big, you probably want to have between, $200,000 and $400,000 in liquidity.
Okay. So then that would be the down payment for entering the franchisee? Or that's like everything?
Yeah, no, that's like the down payment.
Okay.
So I'll use one of my brands, for example, to build a laundromat.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cost between $1 million and $1.5 million to build a laundromat. So we want franchise owners to have around $400,000 in liquidity, because that's going to build out the laundromat. It's going to build out the infrastructure, the plumbing, the electrical work, the mechanical, the flooring, the drywall.
Mm-hmm.
It'll cost $350,000 to $400,000. Well, I'll say $300,000 to $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to bring the equipment in.
Yeah.
The
So you
washers and
essentially just
dryers.
build the base of it with the down payment, and then you bring everything else in. Would that be on a business loan then, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there's SBA, Small Business Administration, which is similar to an FHA loan
Okay. So it
when
is
you're
similar.
buying a house.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, my lending experience in residential mortgages, it's crazy to me how it aligns with franchising.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's essentially like purchasing a home, but depending on if it's conventional or FHA, but it depends on what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the cool thing, what I love about business ownership is you're investing in something that likely will generate income for you,
Mm-hmm.
versus investing in a house. Gives you a place to live, but
Right.
doesn't really bring in any money.
It holds value, but it doesn't create income. Essentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes
Ideally holds value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ideally, yeah. Unless something happens, the market goes down, market goes crazy. Who knows?
Yeah.
So does this capital get taken on by the franchisor, the franchisee, or do they create an LLC that it would go into?
Yeah. So they're always going to create an LLC. Any entrepreneur, they have to create their entity first. And that can be a sole proprietorship or limited liability corporation. S Corp, C Corp, usually will refer them to their accountant and their attorney to assist them with what type of entity.
So it won't be on the franchisor, like the
No.
capital. So it's all the person who's the franchisee that puts the capital in whatever investment, S Corp, LLC, whatever
Yes.
they want. Okay.
Yeah. No, the franchisor provides the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
The franchisee writes the check
Okay.
to essentially buy the playbook so they can execute.
Interesting. So they take on all of the liability.
Yes.
So for the franchisor, they don't really take any liability. They just get money fee essentially for the playbook.
Yeah. And ongoing support,
Okay.
like that new product development or, any
Yeah,
of
like we
that.
talked about, like talking about new strategies and talking teamwork. Making sure that you're producing a high quality product that's most efficient that you could, essentially.
Yeah.
With laundromats, it's pretty wash and dry, no pun intended. But it's pretty easy. I mean, it's pretty simple. You go in there, you have different laundry. You have either the coin or the card, whatever one works for people easier, and then you kind of go from there.
You'd be surprised how high tech it is.
I can probably imagine how high tech it could be, because you could have like the tap pay now. Do you guys usually do tap pay now with the new franchisees, or?
Yeah.
With
I mean,
laundromats?
owners get to choose 3 different payment options. It could be cash. It could be the money card.
Can you do both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you could do an app.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess-
Well, I guess my thing would be like, wouldn't you always want to have like coin machines available just for that option?
Well, I'm going to say most laundromat franchise owners don't work in the business. So if there's cash on the premises,
Mm-hmm.
what is that at risk of?
Mm.
Attracting someone that might want that cash.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's best to probably not have as much cash.
Yeah. Well, I was
the
thinking
business.
like if you had, say, for instance, everything is almost all like tap pay or an app or like a card.
Yeah.
But then you had like 4 machines that were coin in case someone needed that.
Yeah.
It could be a solution, or it could create problems. It's either or. It's kind of a coin flip. But do you mostly see?
Bada bing.
I know. Do you mostly see the tap pay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be the easiest.
Yeah.
Because nowadays everything's technology.
Yeah.
Pay anyways.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So you did the massage parlor. Now you're doing.
Oh my gosh, you're giving me a heart attack now.
I'm just
massage therapy clinic.
Massage therapy clinic.
Not a massage parlor.
Massage parlor.
Yeah.
She's having fun. I mean, so massage therapy clinic. You have the laundromat. So have you invested in any other franchisees?
Yeah. So I'm an area developer for a healthy pet food brand. It's like the whole food of pet stores.
I like that. I do have a pet, so
you have like 1,000 pets.
We've got 4 dogs and a cat here. Sometimes 5, sometimes 6. But they don't all live here at once, but they're usually here over and it goes crazy. So it is fun. So how's that? How's the dog one? Is it different than
well,
than laundromats?
It's a lot of fun. A partner and I are building pet stores down in Southwest Florida. And, you know, what I love about that industry, first of all, is the wellness that we're bringing to dogs. And I think today's consumers, we want our dogs to eat as healthy as we are.
Right.
I mean, I got my little fur baby girl at home. She's over 17 years old.
Yeah.
My family goes crazy. They're saying, "Ooh, that smells good. What are you making for dinner?" And
right.
sometimes it's food for her.
Yeah.
But we don't have any pet evolutions in Chicagoland yet.
How tough is it to actually do something out of state? I mean, that could be stressful.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, just a short airplane ride away. Yeah.
That could be a lot for some people, though.
I mean,
yeah.
Really, for us, it's just about helping people with the site selection, but everything else really can be done virtually, which is kind of cool.
Okay, so you're essentially helping people get started on that playbook.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So do you expand then to like any state that would have that? Could you bring that to Illinois or like Texas or California or New York?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And do people look into that, or do people just kind of shy away from that?
Yeah, no. So our pet brand, Pet Evolution, is an emerging franchise brand. We have 19 locations open right now across the country and room for plenty more.
Awesome.
So I think we have probably another 20 or so in development where people are looking for the real estate and everything else. So
those ones are cheaper than to start off than like a laundromat, right? Or would they be about the same?
Little bit cheaper, but you probably need around $300,000 in liquidity for the pet store, around $400,000 for the laundromat.
Okay.
So
could you get someone started under $100,000 for a franchisee? For what example would that be?
Yeah. Well, I think I had mentioned some painting brands. There's housekeeping brands.
Interesting.
Yeah. One of my favorites. I'm working with a gentleman right now. He's got an auto detailing brand.
Ooh.
And I love it because the ceramic coating that goes on vehicles. Mm-hmm. You know, I drive a nice little car and I really enjoy that. And so I was attracted to his brand and his branding. So I got to learn a little bit more about it. And lo and behold, he's an Army veteran. So I'm like,
there you go. Full circle.
I love what you do. Right.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's fun. I'm also working with a trash removal franchisor.
Trash is not going anywhere, so it's always going to be there.
Right?
So, I mean, he's got a good business there.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So that takes away from, like, the city doing the trash then? Or how exactly? Is it, like, larger trash that you'd, like, throw away?
Yeah, so they do junk removal,
okay,
which I think is kind of a little bit more of what you're referring to.
Yeah, which is like some cities have, some cities don't have.
Yeah, it varies, but they have national agreements and contracts. So, they just do a plethora of things. Interestingly enough, and I don't think we see it a lot around here, but hoarding is actually a thing.
Yeah, no, I used to watch those shows.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember any of those shows.
Yeah.
They were so funny to me because you'd see a couple pictures of like celebrities and their wives and husbands, and it'd be like, this looks like a person that would go on a hoard show with like a bunch of storage units and stuff. So those are funny. Those are good shows. Because I remember, I forget what show it was. I think it was Storage Wars. So those ones you'd buy the storage for like a certain price or whatever, and then you basically figure out if it's worth it or not.
Yep.
By like just only
going
peeking
through
in it.
And that guy, Yep.
Like,
whatever his name is, I can't remember.
Yeah. No, those are good shows.
Yeah.
So that would be a good franchisee right there.
Yeah.
Do you think you could start one as low as like $5,000 or $10,000?
I'll go with no.
No.
Probably the lowest entry, all in for your cash injection and everything you need, whether it might be a wrapped vehicle because it's a service brand. I'm going to say the lowest is probably all in. I might be stretching it if I say 75,000.
Okay.
So, but that's all in.
Yeah. Right.
And you know what? Ideally, the perfect time to start a business is when you still work at home.
Yeah.
I mean, when you live with your parents.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because you don't have a lot of expenses.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to say, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to pay my rent next month?
Yeah. I guess the catch-22 with that one is usually the people that are living at home don't have that amount of capital on them.
Yes.
Because it's like the people who have homes and have a big basis usually have a lot of capital they can deal with.
Yeah.
And then the people that are living at home, that it's a perfect opportunity.
There's a reason they're
them.
living at home.
It's like the reason they're living at home is because they're building up that capital.
Yeah.
And then once they build up the capital, they might move out at that point.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's funny.
Well, I've got 3 amazing kids, and anytime any of them are ready, I'll partner with them any day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So have you done marketing experience? Do you have any I'm curious what your like college education is if you have like any marketing experience, business experience, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I did go to school for business. And then I went into the Marine Corps. I said,
okay.
Yeah, I need to serve my country. I need more adventure. I hate school.
Yeah. A lot of people do hate school.
Yeah. And then, so to your marketing question, that is probably my blind spot. The cool thing is I gave birth to someone who has his master's degree in marketing.
He filled the hole. Came in and was like, what you need? You need a marketer? I got you.
Yeah.
And that's James. I mean, that's the guy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. He's got the brain for it, which is great.
Oh my gosh. He is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He knows what he's doing.
It's
fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, last thing I definitely want to talk about is just lost audio there for a second. Last thing I kind of want to talk about is, so going in the future, right, with all these franchisees that you have, what's the exit plan? How do you pull yourself out? Like, do you have the liquidity to pull yourself out? Can you sell it like a home? How do you transition out of that and say you want to just retire and you don't want the work of doing this? Like, how do you get yourself away from the franchise?
Yeah. Well, everything is collaboration. So a few of my businesses, I have business partners in, and, we just discuss it. Like, are we done? Are we ready to move on? Mm-hmm. Is this what we thought it would be? Is this taking too much time? One of my favorite things to do is have multiple assets, and then you can choose to exit whenever you want. Is it generating the cash flow that you want or need? But yeah, I mean, if they're growing, do you really need to exit?
Yeah, right. I guess it would more just be like, okay, I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, it's growing, it's doing great, but like, I don't really need the capital. Because at that point, when you're pulling out of a franchising, I mean, hopefully you're at the point where you don't really need the capital anymore, and you're like, 5 more years of this isn't really going to change my life significantly. So you could just be like, like, I'm going to pass this along to like a relative or like my kids or something, or you can just sell it entirely and kind of talk to the franchisor and be like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I'm just stepping away and I'm selling this to somebody else. Yeah.
I mean, your buyer pool might be somewhat limited, right? Even though in the past when I've sold businesses, I generally have talked to one person and then they bought it. So,
interesting.
Yeah, usually when you get into franchising, in my opinion, generally you're going to have built-in buyers, and those are your owners in contiguous markets, other franchise owners in the same brand that you might be in, or it might be other franchise owners that want to diversify. So they might own a complementary brand, like a woman's eyelash brand, and they also own a massage therapy or a, beauty salon kind of spa.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyways, once you're immersed in franchising, it's a very small space.
So then that space essentially would be the people that you'd be selling to if you wanted to exit.
Yeah.
It'd be the same connections that you made along the journey would be the same connections that could essentially be the people that would sell or buy your company.
Yeah. They could be. The key is to grow a good business.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You don't want to grow a bad business.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not making money, guess what? You're going to have like 0 buyers.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit more challenging. So, it's business ownership and franchise ownership is not for the faint at heart. It requires some grit and dedication and, and I love it. To me, like, I love it. My husband's been retired for almost 10 years now.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah. But you know what? I've raised 3 great kids and just learned a couple months ago I'm going to be a grandma for the first time.
Congratulations.
So
that's
that
so awesome.
might, I don't know. I don't golf that much, so I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah.
Like,
hang out with the grandkid
yeah.
and enjoy life. Go for walks. Hang out with the dogs. All
yeah.
that good stuff.
Takes me an hour to walk the 17-year-old. So there's that.
Just around the block.
Around the block.
It takes a while.
She has to sniff every blade of grass.
Oh yeah, of course she does. Of course she does. Why would you not? Yeah, no, that's exciting. But there's one story that I wanted to talk to you about that reminded me when you talked about going to the field trips and kind of buying back your time with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Was I forget the name of it. It's the car TV show. It's like I can't remember it off the top of my head. My brother's gonna shoot me for not remembering. It's a
car TV show.
Yeah, racing. There's like 3 English guys. I forget what it's called.
Is it currently on?
Not currently. I think they stopped the show. But it's like there's the 3 English guys and they basically have a racing show.
Okay.
And they have a bunch of fancy cars, crappy cars. They do a bunch of challenges and all this and all that. And then the one guy said, "Well, why do you need this really fast, really expensive race car? Mm-hmm. You're never going to go on a street that's going to go 200 miles per hour.
Right.
Why do you need this?" And so his story of why he needed this, he was like, "Well, my dad called me, like the hospital called me and said, 'Hey, your dad's in the hospital. He's not doing well. Everything's fading. Like, you got to get here as fast as you can.'"
Uh-huh.
And so he's 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Hops in his car, and he gets to the hospital in about 10 minutes because he's going 200 miles, 250 miles per hour on the freeway with his very, very fancy Porsche that's basically like a supercar.
Yeah.
And he's going like so fast, like 250 miles per hour. He got there in 10 minutes. And when he got there, he got to see his dad. He got to say goodbye to his dad. And his dad passed away 5 minutes later.
I just got like total goosebumps.
And he said, "You cannot buy back those 15 minutes that I would have been in traffic."
You're going to make me cry now,
go
Jacob.
slow.
Did James tell you to bring up this
No.
story?
But like, that's the thing is it's that I love that's so beautiful about this is that you doing this is not to just make millions and billions of dollars, because that's not what it's the purpose of why you want to do the entrepreneur journey should not be like to make billions of dollars. It should be to just spend time, with everyone around you and people you love. So
all right. So let me tag on to that for a hot second. So when people choose to get into business ownership, they need to know what their why is. That's where it begins. My why for me was time with my family. And it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful and so important. And when the going gets tough, you have to kind of go back to that. But interestingly enough, and I say it a lot and probably drives my husband crazy, but I want to make more money so I can give it away.
Right. Yeah. No,
It's so
I mean,
true.
that's the whole thing of, giving back is like you get what your parents give you, and then you turn that into something even more, even more, even better, greater, bigger, stronger, whatever. Yeah. And then you take that and then you give it back to everyone around you, like whether it's your community, whether it's your family, friends, people on like some random gift giveaway for Christmas, for instance, something along those lines. So, yeah, I mean, the reason why is always got to be there whenever you go on any entrepreneur journey. And I see that in sports too. Yeah. The reason why is bigger than just like the fame. It's always the most successful people. Like, I mean, just to, Cristiano Ronaldo, right? I think everyone in the world does. I mean, his reason why was just because his family was so poor and he loved the game of soccer. Yeah. And he was like, I need to get us out of the situation. And like, they're like driving him to practice. Like he doesn't really have shoes. He doesn't have a soccer ball. Like he doesn't have any of these things. And then he just works so hard every single day to get him out of there because of the situation they were in. Yeah. And he was sweeping the streets, cleaning everything. Like that's the reason why. And that reason why takes you to another level that you can't tell somebody to do. You can't motivate somebody. So.
Right. No. Yeah. I see it. I hear it all the time. I work with people that are afraid, and fear can either be a motivator for many or it can crush you.
The quote from Dune 2, I just watched it yesterday. Nice. It's that fear is the mind killer. I shall not fear. Like it's like a big thing. Like, so it's like you go to interview, you're like, do not fear. Just walk in there. Let's go. Let's do this. Like fear can kill things that you don't even think about, like, and they could just be like gone because you don't think right when you're fearful. Yeah. So there has got to be some slight fears and cautions, and you're human if you have those, like we're not saying it's not. Yeah. It's nothing, but it's definitely something that you should probably get over and just be excited and just don't give up. That's always got to do that.
I agree. It helps to surround yourself with good, smart, like-minded people. That you can brainstorm with and say, hey, I had this idea. This is a new experience for me. What do you think? Mm-hmm. I mean, I work with some really badass Marines, Navy SEALs. I mean, incredible people. Mm-hmm. And oh, by the way, talk about fear. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you raised the same right hand that I did. And you know how to shoot a M16 or, whatever weapon of choice these days. So let's not talk about fear. But anyways, it is. It's important to give back and give with purpose and be a servant, leader in the community.
Family, friends, community, yourself too. Don't forget about yourself. Yeah. Don't forget to buy yourself that little milkshake that you always wanted on the weekend.
Oh, I got my manicure today. No worries.
There you go. That's it. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. I do want to have you give yourself some shout outs though for all your stuff here. So camera's right here. Feel free to shout yourself out. Yeah. All your social medias, all your cool stuff you got in your book, obviously. Yeah. Feel free to shout yourself out.
Yeah. I mean, consulting business, Prosperity Franchise Group. Feel free to check us out. You can download my little booklet here for free in color at prosperityfranchisegroup.com. Let's see what else. Oh, I got a fun Facebook group. Franchise Opportunities USA. I try to post as much as possible, just about a variety of franchise opportunities. So you can see how little the investment actually might be. I don't know what else. LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, of course.
Of course, got to connect.
Yeah. That's it. I think that's all I got. Am I missing something?
That sounds it. That sounds good to me. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. Much appreciated. And
Jacob, it was so much fun.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.